Okay, so here we are, Axis Empires. This is just Isenso now. We're here in winter 1945, going into 1946, really. I'm going to have to slide the table a little bit back, but I just kind of wanted to show this because it's a much, much more manageable situation. For me, I can walk around a lot easier. Yay! And it's just, 3 tables is about my limit. Here I was using 4 plus the auxiliary over there. That was too crowded for this room. One thing I did do, I looked up in the rule book, and indeed, it's actually very specific about this. Let me grab the total recruiting book because that's the one I found it in, although I'm sure it's in both. They're almost exactly identical. But at the end of a game, in the combined game, it specifies the V marker is removed from the TK map, but the wire is still going on the Pacific. All play stopped on the TK map. The Allies cannot then start sending stuff from that map to the Pacific. And along with the play stops on a map when the marker is no longer... Oh, yeah. See, the marker is still on the map, but I guess the point here is, as far as I can tell, even though there's an automatic victory and you'd think there'd be kind of a victory bonus and you'd be able to ship stuff over, it's not the case. You gotta win with what you've committed to that theater. That seems a little weird to me. I don't know how much I believe it, but it certainly makes playing easier because otherwise I'd have to be keeping track of card plays and setup and all kind of crappy stuff over on that other map. Maybe some of the cards on this map will reflect, hey, if victory in Europe's happened already. Well, it has, Okay, cool. All right. Anyway, just wanted to stop and chat a little bit because we got a nice little map and a lot more controllable situation. Okay, so here we are. It's the, winter of 1945, just beginning here. And a couple of card plays. I'm going to run through everybody's card plays before I go through what their board actions were. Material shortages on the Japanese has to be played to get some other cards into effect. Has a political event segment chart. Not a lot of effect on its own. Some Air Force. It will eventually, once the material shortages counter comes out of the delay box, start delaying Japanese reinforcements even more. Intensive bombing for the Allies, again, an attempt to increase delays on resources and support units that the Japanese have. Russians got a border defense. Hey, just a pass. They don't have to worry about that anymore now that Europe's done. Okay, so what happened? Well, for the Allies, continuing pushing forward, moving up in Borneo and through the Philippines, positioning themselves, some naval transport to get themselves into a better position. They're looking at, we need to attack Japan, take Japan out directly, kill their supply, and then destroy them on the mainland. Anything less than that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just, this is where all the points are, and we need to get them. Okay, so we look at, what did the Japanese do? They moved forward and set up attacks on the Russians. They're still there. And then the Russians came back and counterattacked. Actually, they failed to counterattack. They selected their card, but what they did do is they managed to play a partisan base here. And we have a full resurgence of Kansu here. 3 units sitting here in the province. Why so many? Oh yeah, the Aid to China card. Actually, I'm going to pop one of these guys over here to help defend this. Anyway, Kansu is now back in the game, and the Japanese are going to have a hard time trying to suppress that revolt while dealing with the Americans and the Brits coming up, and of course trying to finish the Russians off, which isn't going to work anyway because there's no way you can block them from the European map. Well, some stuff in the delay box has to move in, and then we move forward. So here at the January-February turn, Japanese continue their attacks. It looks like they have taken Chita, and now it's down really to one thing. I don't know, somebody who belongs in Chicago, I guess. I'm not familiar with the town. Blagoveshtik or something that, or nowhere near the name. All right, I guess I owe it. There's probably people who live there watching this. I owe them a chance to butcher their name. Blagoveshsk. Veshensk. Blagoveshensk, I don't know. But what we do see, Allied landings, Malaysia's been taken. Just, a battle, used aircraft carriers, etc. Up in the Philippines, we're seeing the invasion of Formosa. Huge, huge numbers of air resources to establish that beachhead. But once it's there, it's not too hard to take. And I'm basically looking at destroying that Japanese perimeter so they can't interfere with anything beyond really the coastline. And then from there, starting the invasion of Japan. And if Japan falls, if the Japanese islands are taken, then there's nowhere to get supply from anymore, which is kind of the important thing. I'm assuming, this is a dependent, not homeland. So, and Korea and stuff is not homeland either. So, we should have a pretty good chance there. Moving through things more swiftly, this isn't really because I'm paying less attention. It's actually got more to do with that I'm able to focus more with just one map. So I'm not going. I don't have to go into as much detail to explain what's going on because I can remember it and hold it till the end of the turn. Okay, so here we're moving into the spring in 1946, and we take the Axis. In this case it's just Japan. Shogo Defense Plan. That adds the kamikazes to the box, and we'll see them in a moment. And it's also pulled the government marker out. Let's see what the kamikazes are like. Well, they don't go in the delay box. Where they go is over here in the strategic warfare. They reduce the time to get support units back. However, they make it so that the Japanese cannot play most of their support units except as interceptor type units. They can only play them to contest an opponent's unit. However, on top of that, though, the Japanese had a kind of a bonus. Because of the delay and slow invasion that the Allies were doing here, and the fact that the Allies didn't drop a fleet in here and say, hey, nothing's going on, the Japanese threw a bunch of their convoys, including their scratch convoys, and got quite a defense into place on Formosa. And that's going to make it really, really tough for the Allies to take all of Formosa. It's going to make it into this brutal siege rather than a regular fight that was expected. And the Allies are at fault for that completely because they had additional support units. They could have blockaded the Japanese ability to place those convoys here. Of course, they would have had to place them here and here, blockaded both of those, and I don't think that cleverly, right? I'm just not that smart a person. All right, and then up here we see the Japanese continuing to fight. Oh, they hit the Russians, but they used the chemical warfare too. They hit the Russians for 1 point. They can't use their air force, though, to launch attacks anymore because they're all committed to kamikaze actions. Anyway, we'll move on to the Allies for this month and see what happens. And at the end of this kind of pleasant spring weather, just before we start going into kind of a little bit more storm, especially the mud in the north, well, let's see. The Allies played Operation Zipper. I don't know, this Blitz marker didn't really get any significant use. Had some additional forces that went on the map, but mainly they launched here, and I went for an ultimate air power support there, which is surrounding it. If this were a place where the Japanese could build troops, that wouldn't help them at all. They're still going to be able to ship stuff in, though, because I haven't canceled out their ability to get here. I'm not sure. I think this is actually denuded as a port by being adjacent. I may have to look that up. If it isn't, I may throw some Japanese fleets into play. We could have used this as an interceptor against something, but it wouldn't have really done much. The Japanese are going to hold off until maybe it's useful. If there is a contesting of that, they probably will. The Allies here were unable and unwilling to really try to push their way into Siam, but they did set up partisans and marched into Kunming, and then the Russians upped their forces here and came onto the board. They're going to push their luck moving eastward towards Japan itself. We also have the Communist Chinese showing up again. So overall, it's, beginning to deconstruct that Japanese force. They've only got 2 years to do it, but I think that they can probably pull off a victory during that time, given that they can focus all their attention here in the Pacific theater. Well, given that the Allied navies are not as useful, perhaps, as some of the other pieces, they put a couple of surface fleets on station to prevent... Oops. I can't get one there. No, I can't stop this. I could get one here, but I can't prevent this from being resupplied that way. And the only thing I could have done was put an Air Force right in the space. That would have worked to prevent more reinforcements from coming, but then I would have only had a one-column shift for the attack. And I wanted the heavier column shift. I'm willing to allow the Japanese to put their entire, to try to throw a lot of their forces into play here, to land, to defend Formosa. If they can't, if they're expending a lot of their supplies and reserves trying to get forces down there, I mean, we've pretty much denuded the Japanese islands, so now it's going to be harder. And these scratch convoys, they're going to go over here into the delay box. All right, so on to the next month, and got some stuff to roll in the delay box to see where it goes. And here in the April-May turn, I kind of ran through the whole turn. This is, different from before. I have so little to do that I can run through everything at once, especially without the cards to play. The Japanese kind of failed in their attack. They caused some attrition losses because of the chemical warfare. I don't know if they're going to eventually take that. What is it? Yeah, Blagoveshnesk, something like that. But on the Allied turn, breakthrough here, Malaysia up through the Bangkok, almost up to Bangkok. The fight here, they broke into Formosa. Why? Well, the Japanese are out of troops. They could have sailed more in, but they're out. And here's what's really scary. This is empty. That ploy, getting the home guard over here, well, that wiped them out. And now I can land troops there while I'm advancing into China, which isn't something I was really counting on, and maybe deprive Japan of its reinforcement capability, as well as gaining forces here. Of course, I've got the bonus Marines here. We'll see. I think the Japanese... See, here's the thing. This next turn, the north, which is where Japan actually is no longer under mud, so it is invadable. So if the Japanese can't get any troops in there, they're in a bit of trouble. And then with the Russians, well, they advanced and failed to gain any ground, but we've got the Chinese Communists actually gained a step. They get to roll every turn now because I've got, actually they get 2 dice on it, because I've got aid to China coming from both sides on there, both the Western and the Communist side. So things are looking really bleak for the Japanese here. I think they're going to collapse very, very fast. They had nothing they could really do, and it's looking painful to them on all fronts. China's collapsing on their side. The Russians are coming in on the other. Japan's open wide for the Americans to land on. So, the fact that they took India and all that, it's all impressive. They get this marker way up here. But can they hold on for 2 years? in that condition? And I think the answer is very clearly no, that they're going to be wiped off the map during that time. Okay, let's load this one up and see where we go. Probably not going to do any more tonight. Certainly not going to load any more up.